Hello viewers, I am back from my never-ending hell that is trying to make challenge videos in Hollow Knight Silksong. Now, Kilroy, aren't you being a bit dramatic in that statement? No, I am not being dramatic. I just had to learn probably the most awful combination of tools in this game. And I had to learn not just how to use that combination of tools, but that the combination of tools is as bad as it is. I don't know if any of you out there have had this experience, but when I looked on YouTube for videos about the combination of the polyp pouch with the flea brew and the plasmium file, I could not find a single video about them aside from shorts that are like, oh, did you know that the polyp pouch makes things poison? Yes, everyone knows the polyp pouch makes things poison in Hollow Knight Silksong. Thank you very much. There is no in-depth conversation about actually using these tools in combat, despite the fact that they are an option that was added to the game by Team Cherry specifically to be used as combat tools. It makes them unique, if anything. Flea Brew and Plasmium File are solely meant to be kind of support tools, but by adding the Plasmium File, you could use them to deal damage to enemies. Theoretically anyway. Because when I tell you, my dear viewers, that these are the most abysmal, shockingly terrible, least effective poisons I have ever seen in the existence of Hollow Knight Silksong, you can be certain that I am not exaggerating one iota. Now, before I get into this whole process and show you why my attempts to beat a boss poison only fell apart at the seams, I'm just going to point out why they're worse than every other polyp pouch combination. You see, when you add polyp pouch to something like the straight pin deals damage, and then lets the polyp pouch deal damage. With the flea brew and the plasmium file, they don't deal damage, so you're solely reliant on the polyp pouch, and it does not pull its weight. If you appreciate me finding random things like this, please subscribe. Let's get on with the video. A good place to start when it comes to talking about how this combination of tools fails so heavily is simply how it works. The Flea Brew, I believe a lot of people understand, it gives you boosts to your speed and attack speed in Hollow Knight Silksong, so it's a generally pretty light tool, and it's invaluable for anyone doing speed runs of the game and challenges with things like the Courier's Rasher. However, when you combine the Flea Brew with the Polyp Pouch, you get all the same buffs and a little bonus, a little poisonous bonus to you, in addition to everything that was good about it before. The Flea Brew is really one of the reasons why I thought this video would work, because it gives you this big poison cloud, and the Polyp Pouch does anywhere from 1 to 3 damage per tick of poison. So I figured, if we have a cloud of poison that lasts that long, and we can consistently go and get enemies and bosses to stay in it, that could be a good 30 points of damage. You know, nothing groundbreaking, but it's a nice bonus in addition to all the speed buffs that it normally gives you. That's what I assumed, and let me tell you, it gets far worse from here. Far worse because now we have the Plasmium File, the other tool that lets you deal poison damage without dealing direct damage. That is because the Plasmium File is normally meant as the ultimate healing and support tool. Even without overdosing on Plasmium, every normal use of the Plasmium File gives you a mass that lasts until you get hit. And stuff like the Flea Brew keeps its original effects, so why wouldn't the Plasmium File? I honestly couldn't tell you why, but instead of sticking around, any poison mask you get with the Plasmium File disappears after seconds, and it disappears into such a tiny and short-lasting poof of poison smoke that it likely would only deal 6 damage in an ideal world. Now, let me say, that 6 and 30 damage estimates, those were the estimates I had based on logic. Logic does not exist here, in this world. I have come to Belbeast with the tools of war I need, the chemical warfare I am bringing to Belbeast, which you would expect would be pretty powerful. You know, I've got 6 poisonous items. I've got 1 upgrade to tool damage. Okay, so I haven't gotten the most upgrades in the world, and that is very clear by the fact that I've died here before. But I just wanted to see the damage I could deal. Now, take note, dear viewer, because I didn't. Damage only happens to the Bell Beast when you see that little white tick. It would be good if you could take notice of that, because I was not noticing it during this entire attempt. Although I probably should have, because I would have seen how few times I dealt damage. Did you see a tick there when I exploded with poisonous gas around the Bell Beast? I did there. That was one solid tick of damage, my dear viewers. That second time, yes, just barely got one hit in, and because I only have one damage upgrade, each of those hits does one damage. Yes, one damage, dear viewer. But you shouldn't have to just take my word for all of this. I am playing on the console in this footage right now, so I figured, now that I've completely wasted all of my items and failed to beat the Bell Beast, I could always throw my bottle at her. That'll probably do more damage than I dealt the whole time. But outside of throwing the bottle, I might as well go get every piece of an upgrade to my tools that I could get reasonably before beating the Bell Beast. And as you can see here, I have a very reasonable looking save file. Okay, so I'm on PC in this footage. I downloaded the save file, but I made sure the most important things were not modded. You can get 3 pouch capacity upgrades and 4 damage upgrades. You can only get 3 capacity upgrades because one of them is locked behind the fleas. You can't send the fleas to the end until you beat Bell Beast. And cut that. Cut the footage. There we have it, a much more reasonable and legitimate size of inventory for this tool pouch upgrade level. And the upgrade level is not going to matter. Let me just show you what it looks like. So now we have the max damage we can deal from all of our items against the Bell Beast here. And I'm also on PC, where I have the HP mod downloaded. So whenever the Bell Beast takes damage, you will begin to see her HP bar. And yes, that is correct, dear viewer. That means the Bell Beast has not yet taken damage in this boss fight. I have used 2 of my tools. They've done a grand total of 0 damage. 3. Maybe that one will... Hey!
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
There we go. We got some damage, ladies and gentlemen. We have finally hurt the Bell Beast with 1 tick of poison from our max upgraded crafting kit. And it was at this point, I didn't know these damage numbers before I recorded this, so I was thinking, hold on, is this a unique problem to the Bell Beast? I figured it was time to do a little bit of research. Maybe the Bell Beast had some special resistance property to poison. So, normal hit from my needle does 17 damage. That's because it's upgraded 3 times, I believe. It's upgraded 1 less than the total amount because I can't get the last pale oil until Act 4. So, 17 damage from the needle. Everything is working fine against these enemies. Now, theoretically, I should deal 3 damage whenever they're in the poison cloud. It does not happen whenever they step in it. They have to step into the poison cloud and then have multiple hits of the cloud upon them before they take 1 tick of poison damage. How is this the way Team Cherry made this work? Every other tool in the game deals poison the second the poison tool hits the enemy. You thought the cloud would be too overpowered if it just instantly proc poison? Is that it? Because that doesn't make a lick of sense to me. So I figured, yeah, I guess this must be what's happening at the Bell Beast. I'm getting myself out of sorts. I can't even speak properly. It's my job to speak when I'm doing these videos. But yeah, you deal damage by specifically making it so the enemy or boss stays within your poison cloud for multiple seconds straight. And apparently it's so long that she can run entirely alongside me and not take damage. What kind of sick creative decision was this? What's the lore reason behind this, huh? Mossbag? Why is the poison specifically applied to the flea brew worse than when it is applied to everything else? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say everything else. How could I forget your dear friend Flea Brew, the Plasmiophile, who you actively make one of the worst tools in the game simply by having a synergy? What are you, Fluke Nest? Fluke Nest and Defender's Crest from Hollow Knight? You wanted a spiritual successor in Silksong? You were not bad enough in your original game? So yeah, I didn't think it was possible to beat this boss with only poison damage after seeing this. But I figured, why not give it the old college try? Alright, this is the ideal setup for this kind of fight against the Belpies. Polyp Pouch, Flea Brew, Plasmium File. We are in the Architect's Crest so that we can rebuild them once we have used them. However, unlike every other tool in the game, we cannot rebuild infinitely. That normally requires you to be overdosed and have Druid Eyes. We can't get overdosed when our Plasmium File is poisoned, because unlike the far superior normal Plasmium File, you can't really stack the poison Plasmium Files. You can barely get up to 4, and then they all explode. And 4, without all of the Act 3 Lifeblood cocoons available in the wild, is never enough to overdose. So, we can't overdose. We are trapped to a maximum of 2 rebuilds, 2 recrafting of our tools. And as I've been speaking, I've used almost every single one of my Plasmium Files, only to deal a grand total of 0 damage to the Belpies. So I was wondering at this point, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to show any grace to this combination of tools? The Flea Brew at least tries, okay? It at least gives you a tiny chance to deal damage. The Plasmium File, if anyone wants to try and have the worst time they've ever had playing a video game, I recommend them to create a challenge where you can somehow have infinite poison Plasmium Files and try to beat any boss. I am fighting the Belpies. Go try and beat freaking Moss Mother. Cheat the game. Give yourself infinite Plasmium Files. It's probably not impossible. I'm just not going to do it. In fact, I'm almost dead now because I don't even really care enough about trying to do this fight the right way. I know it's not going to work out. Do you see how much damage I have dealt? 15. That is with 10, or honestly, I think at this point I've used up almost 20 tools. 20 tools for less than 20 damage. Every tool I've used in this fight has dealt less than 1 damage. Hollow Knight Silksong is a game where your needle deals up to 20 damage, 21 damage. And before that, I think the base needle does 5. So why am I even trying to do this genuinely? Why am I trying this at all? I wanted to make a challenge video where I could beat a boss using abnormal means. Is that so bad, Team Cherry? Was that such a terrible thing that you could make items usable in this game? You've done it before. The bottle that you throw with the Flea Brew does 3 damage. 3 damage per 1 tool use. That's 3 times better than what I just experienced by dealing less than 1 damage every tool use. I'm trying to get rid of it all anyway. And guess what? Even if I could get overdosed, we have reserves for the Flea Brew and the Plasmium File. So you can't rebuild forever. You get a max of 25, 26 Plasmium Files. That's all you will ever do. Maybe with 26, we can deal 3 damage. Maybe we'll finally get 1 hit of damage off with the Plasmium File if we have all 26 of them available to use. But I'm not really counting on that. And in fact, I want to erase the contents of this save file forever. So, goodbye Flea Brew, goodbye Plasmium File. Honestly, I shouldn't be blaming you. Goodbye Polyp Pouch. If you enjoyed this video and learned what you should never do when playing Hollow Knight Silksong, please leave a like, subscribe. Goodbye.